So
That's cool.
we're dismantling the cradle to prison pipeline through education, and that's what education looks like to us.
That's how people find long-term recovery.
Absolutely.
Is you paint a picture of a world that is exciting, that they can see
They
themselves
can
within.
see themselves.
Yeah.
Our mission is to dismantle the cradle to prison pipeline for children of color and children in poverty through education.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another amazing, exciting, and of course enthusiastic episode of Finding Peaks. Yours truly, Chris Burns, founder and president of Peaks Recovery today. I am joined today by one of my favorite humans in the world, Nicholas Dara. He's our community liaison. Nick, grateful to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back. I love it here. I'm so excited
once
for
again,
this.
he's been a premier guest, and now he's gonna help me host a little bit, talk about some things we're doing in the community.
Yeah.
But without further ado, I wanted to introduce the community and the viewers to Regina Walter. Thank you for joining us, Regina.
I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, it's so cool. I'm not going to give you her title, her background, her credentials. She is going to inform you about her mission and vision, and more specifically, her passion and community. Regina is the founder. She is currently disrupting the cradle to prison pipeline through Educating Children of Color, ECOC, here in Colorado Springs. It is a nonprofit. Her executive director, you don't have your shirt on.
I do.
Oh, there we go. ECOC, Leadership Academy. The quote on the front is beautiful, Malcolm X quote. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare today. Wow, if that's not living 24 hours at a time, I don't know what is. So thank you so much for joining us, Regina. Please ignite the viewers with why you created this. How is it informed? How did you come to be so passionate about helping underserved communities?
Well, I'm going to tell a long story.
I love it.
So
Yeah.
I became a juvenile magistrate in 1987. I was the youngest judicial officer in the state of Colorado.
Oh my God.
And I thought that I was above reproach in every way. And I went to a conference on disproportionate minority confinement in 1995. So I'd already been on the bench at that point for 8 years. So I go to this conference, I'm young, I'm female in the sea of older white men, which is what most judicial officers then were.
Yeah.
And I am really sanctimonious, because I know that I'm not part of the problem. And 3 days into the conference, I realized that if you are a black juvenile male and you get arrested on possession of crack cocaine, that I assume that you're a dealer. And because you're a dealer, you don't get a substance abuse evaluation, you don't get treatment, and you don't get out of detention. And there was no evidence to support that assumption, and I was completely unaware that I was making it. White juvenile male, exact same charges. I assumed you were a user. And because you were a user, you got a substance abuse evaluation and you got out of detention. And again, no evidence to support the assumption, and completely unaware that my implicit bias was impacting my decision making. And I knew I treated girls differently than I treated boys, because that was research based, but unaware of the distinction I was making based on race.
Wow.
So I came back in 1996 and started what was then called the 4th Judicial District Disproportionate Minority Confinement Task Force, and a group of concerned individuals from CASA, the Department of Human Services, the Police Department, the Public Defender's Office, the District Attorney's Office, and we started looking at disproportionate outcomes for children of color, exclusively in the juvenile justice system. And then we started thinking, it's not just a problem of juvenile justice. Black children, children of color, but particularly black children, if there's a call into the Department of Human Services on an allegation of child abuse or neglect, the first response by the department is that they're more likely to put that kid into placement than to do any in-home services. And that child is more likely to age out of foster care at age 18 without permanence than their white peers. Wow. And so we realized that the problem was not just the juvenile criminal system, it was the system across the board. Yeah. And so in 2007, we decided the one thing that all of our kids had in common was education. And so we started educating children of color, and our first Educating Children of Color Summit took place in January of 2008. So our mission, and we became a 501c3 in 2014. Oh, wow. Our mission is to dismantle the cradle to prison pipeline for children of color and children in poverty through education. That task force that I started in 1996, it still exists, and it still looks at issues of overrepresentation in the juvenile court. And there are more of them around the state now because of that, the inception of that, or since the inception of that program.
Wow. Amazing. That is tremendous.
Yeah.
Going back just a little bit, the implicit bias you talked about with respect to children of color or people of color, was that more cultural than anything else, or was it just the status quo?
It was the status quo, and I can demonstrate to you how much of the status quo it was. In 1991, the man who I was married to then said to me, "What do you think Colorado Springs' racial and ethnic makeup is?" And I said, 1/3 white, 1/3 black, and 1/3 Hispanic, because that's what I saw in my court every single day.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have been more wrong. Colorado as a state is 68% white now.
Mm-hmm. Right, Beth.
And so you know that we haven't gone the other way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So my perceptions were completely warped by what I saw in my courtroom every single day. They were. And so I was a juvenile magistrate for 21 years. I became a county court judge in 2008, and the issues were the same in the adult criminal system, and exacerbated, in fact, exacerbated. The rate of incarceration for a black man in Colorado is 6.6 higher than the rate of incarceration for his white counterpart. It's 2.2 higher for a Latino individual. So the system across the board continues to be rife with disparate outcomes.
Yeah.
So I became a county court judge in 2008. I retired in 2019, but I'm a senior judge. So now I'm like a substitute teacher. I just go wherever they need me in the state. And I see the same numbers play out across the state.
Absolutely.
No, thank you for that. It's really, really insightful. And I think for the viewers, probably for a lot of them, the first time they're hearing this type of information. It's a lot of times, like, one of the questions I'll get to is, why don't we talk about this more? I think because it's uncomfortable. But bigger than that, going back to the seat that you hold as a judge, what have you seen from, and I have to imagine there has been some progress. You've been at the forefront of a lot of it. What are some of the progression, specifically to El Paso County where Peaks Recovery is? What are some of the progressions we've made over the course of your 30-year career that you can see clearly?
I would not say that minority overrepresentation has changed.
Okay.
I would say that as a judicial system, we are all getting more training on implicit bias. We have recently added a jury instruction on implicit bias that says, try to think about this as if the person in front of you was of the same race or of the same religion. And so as a system, we are trying to make differences and appropriate changes, but it's very incremental. And the problems are so pervasive that I wouldn't say that I could point to an area that we've made significant changes. And I'll tell you, a lot of people will listen to this, and when I say the rate of incarceration is 6.6 to 1 for a black individual, and they might hear that as saying black people are more likely to commit crimes. But I want to talk to you about a statistic that I share every time I do talk about racial and ethnic disparities. And that is, when you look at exonerations, look at exonerations. So in the entire nation, Black individuals represent 13.9% of our population. They are 41% of the individuals who are on death row. So that's death penalty. I said I was going to talk about exonerations, and I didn't, but that's death penalty.
Yeah.
If you look at exonerations based on DNA evidence, so I think in 1989, courts started recognizing the validity of DNA evidence.
Oh.
And so places like the Brian Stevens Equal Justice Initiative and the Innocence Project started challenging cases where there is DNA evidence, and there's not in most cases, where people were saying, I was wrongfully convicted. And about 4,000 convictions have been overturned since that, maybe a little bit more. Ladura Watkins, for example, is a Black man who served 41 years for a murder he did not commit. But of those approximately 4,000 cases, 53% of the exonerations, 52% of the exonerations are Black individuals who are serving time for crimes that they did not commit. 64% of the total are individuals of color who are serving sentences for crimes that they did not commit. That's just based on DNA evidence.
Yeah, right.
If you look at the cases that have been dismissed because of wholesale dismissals, because of police or district attorney malfeasance, almost 90% are people of color.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
So,
Yeah, I really like
that's a problem.
That is. I love data. I don't have a lot of it, but I'd have it now.
Yeah.
But that's
Okay.
That's a lot. And I think it really goes back to that implicit bias, right? And this thought that we have internally that isn't right or wrong necessarily, right? As long as you don't act on it. And it's how do you move forward in your life by knowing? And I think that's the first step.
By knowing.
Yeah.
Ibram X. Kendi, his book, I think it's How to Be an Anti-Racist. One of the things that he talks about is, to the extent that you do nothing, you just let it ride, you let it fly, you are part of the problem.
Absolutely.
You perpetuate implicit bias, you perpetuate these negative outcomes. So to the extent that you do nothing, you are part of the problem. When and there's an Afghani proverb that I love is, a river is made one drop of rain at a time. So if any small change that you make has the ability to have a cascading effect. So if all you do differently every day is be more mindful about your decision making, so the individual who's in front of me, this young Black juvenile who's arrested with crack cocaine, am I thinking about him specifically? Am I thinking about his circumstances? Am I thinking about, or am I glomming every other Black child who's ever been in front of me together, or every other person who's ever had crack cocaine? If I'm not being present and mindful, then the problem continues. And if the only change I make in my life is to be more mindful about my decision making, that's a big change.
That's huge.
That's
Amazing.
a huge change.
Yeah.
And that can become a river. That can become a
deal.
river of impact.
Absolutely. And just gives you so much exposure to different people, right? Which I think helps challenge those thoughts that we keep in our brain. For example, I had some implicit biases towards people experiencing homelessness for a while in my life, right? The media shows them a certain way. I think I've talked about this on the show before. And I believed that was the case based on the knowledge I had, right? And so I gained education, I gained experience with these people, and I was able to shift that thought process and be like, that's not accurate, that's not true, right? And I think that's kind of that thing, right? Like it started with a little drop and I grew. Yeah, it's amazing.
Remember your raindrop.
Yeah.
And if you can live in that authenticity, because I think that's what it is, Because I can remember for a lot of times, even in my recovery or working in behavioral health, where I wasn't putting my authentic foot forward because in fear of how that might impact community one way or another. Yeah. And so just standing in that authenticity to say today, like, I'm not going to get this 100% right, but I'm going to try.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to make my best effort. I'm going to bring really brilliant people on the show, and I'm going to connect with people that know this stuff. We're going to do our best. That has this ripple effect, as you talk so eloquently about in community, that is just so relatable. You know, that people can really connect with that. So I wanted to talk more about the nonprofit and what donations actually do for individuals in community. Because I think sometimes it's missed that, like, well, I only have $200 to donate, and it probably won't help anybody. And so I just wanted to, and I'm gonna have Nick talk about, you know, the opportunity we're engaging with you and educating children of color. But first, like, what is the impact of these donations for viewers as we're coming on the holidays, where a lot of us here in the United States, we engage in excess and privilege and a lot of things. What does a simple donation do in a time like this for individuals who are under-resourced?
Okay, the first thing is, and this is, every dollar counts. We are tiny. We're a tiny nonprofit. We have 2 half-time employees. That's all we have. Otherwise, all of the work that we do is volunteers, including me. And as the founder, I act like an executive director, but I'm also traveling all over the state being a retired judge. So as a senior judge, I just go wherever they need me in the state. Yeah. But I will be at Panorama Middle School next week, and I will be at Mountain Vista Middle School next week. So I want to talk about the things that we do and how donations can support. But I also want to make an admonition, which is that I'm still a judge, so I'm not allowed to ask for money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll ask.
Okay, yeah. So.
Me too.
All right, just wanted to make sure I got that out on the record. So we have a number of programs. One of them is the Educating Children of Color Summit. I told you the first one took place in 2008. We had 350 people there.
Wow.
Amazing.
Dang.
We will have 1,600 people at Fountain Fort Carson High School on January 25th. And the summit is for 8th through 12th graders. It's free. For parents and for college students, it's free. And then for people who are getting professional development credits, it accounts for 8 hours of professional development. It's $35, so it's a really cheap opportunity to get professional development credits. Yeah. So we hope to have about 800 youth and about 800 adults at Fountain Fort Carson High School. It's on January 25th. Everybody is invited. Yeah. So any donation you make can help support that event. It's a big deal. We have 100 breakout sessions. We have 100 speakers from all over the nation, and we give away a boatload of scholarships, one of which is being sponsored this year by Peaks Recovery Centers. Yeah. So in the last, I told you we're tiny. Mm-hmm. We don't have a physical location. Yeah. We just are in our cars doing our thing.
I get that.
In the last 4 years, we've given away more than $400,000 in scholarships and educational gifts. We'll give away $88,000 in scholarships to juniors and seniors and undergraduate college students on the 25th. We'll also give away $10,000 in educational gifts. So an educational gift is just $500 that when you get enrolled in school, we give it to you personally instead of to the school. So you can buy a comforter if you need to, you can buy a laptop if you need to, you can buy new clothes if you need to. And twice now, on an emergency basis, we have run money up to UCCS to pay for somebody's their parking permit, because they were like, I didn't know,
it's
today. I didn't know, and it's today. And we have run money up there. So we'll give away $10,000 in educational gifts. We'll give away 20 laptops. And for educators, we'll give away 5 educator awards. So $500 for classroom enhancement. Wow. So it's
Beautiful.
like, I don't know if you know about the nonprofit Donor's Choice, but you support schools. But so it's like Donor's Choice, except the recipient doesn't even have to apply. They just have to show up at the summit.
Wow.
So that's the summit. We also give free SAT prep classes that are online. Colorado College students work with individuals for 10 sessions between the summit and the date that the SAT takes place, and we pay those mentors from Colorado College. We also have a program, and this is, I want to talk about what education means to us. I told you about the scholarships. I also told you about the summit. So our goal with the summit is that youth get exposed to people in careers that they're interested in who look like them. We want them to learn empowerment skills. We have self-defense classes. We have culinary arts classes. The zoo is going to do a session, the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo is going to do a session on zoology. If you want to handle a snake,
That's cool.
well, you can't because you're in adult sessions. Sorry about
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I don't need that. Yeah.
Every single student who attends is going to spend time with kingdom builders, learning about healthy relationships.
Beautiful.
And then they'll have an opportunity, every single student, so they get to choose 2 breakout sessions. They have to go to the healthy relationship one. And then they also have an opportunity to mingle in a vendor room where they learn about distracted driving and scholarship opportunities. So then for the adults, our goal with the college students is to give them more skills to get on with their lives. With parents, it's to learn how to communicate with your kids and how to communicate with schools. And for the educators, it's how to embrace and inspire kids who don't look like them, weren't raised like them, don't eat like them, because most teachers are middle-aged white women. Yeah. And so it's an opportunity for them to elevate their skills and to keep from pushing kids out into the juvenile justice system. So that's one way in which we embrace education. The second is, or promote education. The second is the scholarship money. Oh, I want to say a couple more things about the scholarships, just because
Absolutely.
This is an opportunity to promote. You have 4 years to use your scholarships. Oh. So let's say that you are going to a school that you have full financial aid the first year, but you want to do a semester abroad second year, and your school will not cover that. Guess what will?
That's awesome.
So
a little bit more dynamic.
It's so dynamic.
Yeah.
And like I said, you have 4 years to use it. And under one circumstance, we have a kid who's so brilliant that he's got a full ride for his full time. And he said, is there a way that we can use this for living expenses? And I said, yes, but then it becomes taxable income. And he said, okay.
Sure.
So that's not the norm, but we are really flexible.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's scholarships, one of the ways in which we educate. SAT prep is one of the ways we educate. But the other thing is we have a program called Diversity University.
Oh, yes.
And Diversity University is co-facilitated by Dr. Regina Lewis, Professor Emerita from Pikes Peak Community College and the founder of Regina Speaking, and I, and me. And, and me. It's co-facilitated by us. And we have experts on topics that we are not experts on. And so we have experts on LGBTQ issues. We have experts, we have a transgender educator who always participates when we address transgender issues. We have people who are ability and ableism experts. So Regina and I defer to other experts to make sure that we're not telling somebody else's story. So we facilitate Diversity University, which is, we've had students as young as 17 and as old as 84 attend. And it's all about looking at your implicit and explicit biases and how you can leverage your power to increase equity and justice. So that is one form of education that educating children of color is about. Then finally, we have the Leadership Academy. And the Leadership Academy is a program that is for the full academic calendar year. We have mentors from Colorado College, UCCS, Pikes Peak, and CSU Pueblo. And we meet with kids primarily in Southeast Colorado Springs, but we also have a cohort in D20. We meet with kids from 13 schools, I believe, and work on increasing leadership skills, exposing them to career opportunities, what it takes to get into college, how you maximize your high school and middle school career. We actually have 6 middle schools, 8th graders, all of our participants from middle schools are 8th graders from Harrison School District 2. So we have this Leadership Academy, and that's one way we embody education. And then this summer, for the first time ever, we had summer versions of the Leadership Academy. So we had 60 8th graders from District 11 who we had a STEM week with them.
Cool.
That they learned about the life cycle of butterflies.
Yeah,
And then we also had a summer version of the Leadership Academy with 25 high school students from Harrison and Sierra, where they learned to become restorative justice practitioners.
Yes.
So
That's cool.
we're dismantling the cradle to prison pipeline through education, and that's what education looks like to us.
Yeah.
And that is like, I certainly couldn't have said it better myself, but that's how people find long-term recovery.
Absolutely.
Is you paint a picture of a world that is exciting, that they can see themselves
They can
within.
see themselves.
Yeah.
I can be a
That's the
part of this
important
with
thing.
you.
That's the important
Because I've been told, my parents have been told, and their parents have been told throughout generations that this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Wow, that gives me chills.
Yeah.
Because it was old man Steve in Alcoholics Anonymous who said that I could live in this world with you all. And I was like, I believed him.
Yeah.
Tremendous what you are doing in community, Regina. Grateful to be connected with you and share in some of this. And you let me know where my service position can be in your nonprofit. And I've talked to Dr. Marissa Prince multiple times. I'm like, let me go to the high school kids. I want to hang out with the high school kids. I am passionate about your cause, and so much so I want to just turn it over to Nick a little bit about the opportunity that we're engaging with this year and hopefully years to come. Hopefully this can be an annual thing, maybe a semi-annual, as we begin to move into a new season of Peaks Recovery. So I want to turn it over to Nick and how we engage with the opportunity sitting in front of us today.
And also, Dr. Marissa Prince is the director of the Leadership Academy and has a very significant role at your organization.
Yes, she
All
does.
right.
Our clinical director and a good friend of mine.
We're
Love her.
lucky. It was a recommendation from him, too.
That's right. Yeah. So we're so fortunate this year to be able to sponsor a $2,000 scholarship for somebody working on their undergraduate in human services. And that so aligns with not only your guys' mission to provide this education and help change that pipeline, right? But also with our mission, right? Which is to change the treatment industry, I mean. And I think it was just such a beautiful opportunity that we can really go hand in hand and show up as part of this community that has done so much for Peaks, right? By allowing us to be here and that we've been able to integrate into for the last 10 years and be a part of. And now we're in this beautiful opportunity to show up for people who might not even need treatment, right? But we're still here in Colorado Springs, showing up for the community and being as helpful as we can be. It's a beautiful thing. It's
I
amazing.
love that.
Yeah. And I love the prevention behind it because it's like, it's so preventative. Like, let's move in. We don't actually have, we can inform thriving
Absolutely.
instead of surviving, which is so cool about what you do. Like, let's not wait for this thing.
That's the point
Like,
of the Leadership
let's build it up.
Academy. Look at this oyster that's open to you. Look at it.
Yeah. And it's so true. I mean, I think even at my own recovery story, right? Like, there was a time when I was like, I'll never be able to be sober. This cannot be the life for me. I was told once you do certain drugs, that's who you are. That's what it's going to be for you, right? Once you get a felony, your life is over. It doesn't matter you're never going to get an apartment. You're never going to get a good job. You'll never be able to get in college, etc. And by having Chris actually be like, you can have this life, right? I have experiences similar to yours, and you can get to the other side of it, was like that eye-opening moment for me. And I think it's probably the same feeling. It feels the same for people that we're working with in this way. Would you agree?
I would agree. And some people, one thing that's interesting to me is, I told you the educational gifts are door prizes. So more than once, I'd say at least 8 times, a kid has called me and said, I never thought about going to college. But this $500, I felt like I couldn't leave it laying on the table because I could only get it when I enrolled in school. And guess what? I'm about to graduate. So isn't that great?
It's
Beautiful.
so cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, and you get to inform, you know, a lot of folks, I know even for myself included, had a view with respect to law enforcement and the judicial system in general, and it was a pretty negative view. I don't have that negative view today because it's been informed through quality individuals who direct and guide that system, and you're one of them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so for these young kids to see who may have a little bit of quite a bit of distrust for law enforcement and the legal system altogether, you get to come in the front-facing form of a scholarship and an opportunity to thrive in a community that they didn't think they were a part of. Wow. That's cool.
So if you have a child who might be interested in law school, there will be sessions. Law School Yes We Can is a program out of Denver that federal judge Christina Arguello, who graduated from Coronado High School,
oh my gosh,
that she started, that mentors kids in college through law school. So if you're interested, if you have a kid who's interested, a scholar who's interested in law, and then there will be a legal panel also at the summit. So judges of color, attorneys of color, again, so that our kids can see themselves reflected in potential careers.
Absolutely.
That's so helpful. You know, I remember sitting there and being like, did you do drugs? Then I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, I can imagine for somebody from those communities would have even more edges to them with respect to trust and who can show up and inform anything for me. So I love that you're doing that. It takes a lot of presence. And what a grateful opportunity it is to have you on the show today. Before we let you go, I know we've been telling stories for an hour before we started. And we could do it forever. I was sitting in a coffee before this. I said, I'm going to go sit with a human who was a judge for 30 years, and I want to ask her if Tupac's death was a setup. And he's like, are you really going to ask that? And I was like, and I did. So yeah, I'll tell you her answer. But before we get out of here, I tend to believe that this resource you're providing in the community is only going to be Colorado Springs and Colorado driven for a temporary period of time. I believe things like this have a contagious way of spreading throughout community, and people connect with it because it's authentic, real, and people know we need it.
Yeah.
So for you, what is your dream for educating children of color and disrupting the cradle to prison pipeline?
So I have 2 that are just really simple. I'd like to be able to pay for a full-time executive director because we really need someone who can go out into the community and spread the word. Because the second part of that dream is that people need to know about us. And despite the fact that we're going into the 18th annual Educating Children of Color Summit, people still say, I've never heard of that, or I've never heard of you. We want to become so known in the community that we can expand. We've been asked to replicate it in Massachusetts. We've been asked to replicate it in Nebraska. We've been asked to replicate it, but we're tiny. And so and it's hard to, this sounds like it's whining. It's hard to apply for money if you're if you don't have a full-time executive director.
For sure.
And it's hard to be a presence if you're not able to be, you don't have a full-time executive director. So that's our goal, to have a full-time executive director and to become renowned. And then once we're renowned, to expand the reach. We've had kids attend the summit from Wyoming and from New Mexico. And one year somebody complained because we didn't spread the word in Kansas. And I'm like,
dang, all right. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Could you do that for us in the future?
Yeah, service position?
Would you? So, but in our own community, we are not known.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal, is we want to be known, because that will increase our impact. That'll increase our reach. I will tell you that this year we turned away 110 kids for the Leadership Academy because we don't have capacity.
Yeah.
We can take about 20 kids per school because we just don't have capacity beyond that.
Yeah.
I would love to have a Leadership Academy with 440 kids instead of 330. And if that Leadership Academy then expanded to 3,000 kids, that would be amazing. And if it expanded to Wyoming and New Mexico, I'm pointing in directions I have no idea.
Pretty sure that's wet. You're close.
Yeah. It's like around.
I always get
Kansas. There it is. Kansas. So we would love to be able to expand what we're doing, because disproportionate minority confinement exists in every state in the nation. And disparate outcomes in terms of poverty, in terms of school discipline, in schools, in terms of school attainment, in terms of college graduation, in terms of juvenile justice and criminal justice, exist everywhere in the nation. And we want that to stop. And that's the big goal. I talked about little tiny goals, just for us to be more visible. Our goal is for every kid to reach their full potential and to dismantle, not to dismantle the cradle to prison pipeline, and that's the goal.
Beautiful.
I love it. We're making a huge step today as we get this information out to our listeners. I definitely would love to bring you back after the summit.
Oh, fun.
And bring you on for a kind of a multi-layered approach so we can continue to inform the community and our viewers and have a pretty big reach of who and what you are, and what the opportunity is for children to begin to thrive in these communities.
So, if I want your listeners, your viewers, to mark their calendar and register for January 25th for the Educating Children of Color Summit.
January 25th.
But Diversity University will take place the week of June 23rd. It is a 40-hour commitment. It is a full work week. It's cheap. It's $80. It's $80, and it's 40 hours of professional development, but it is life-altering. And then Diversity University 2, I think, will take place maybe like July 9th.
Okay.
And that is 3. So the first is the full week. The Diversity University 2 is 3 days.
Okay.
And amongst other things, what you do is complete an intercultural development plan.
That's kind of cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
And also, what's cool about it is that I know that most of us think that we're more enlightened than we really are.
For sure.
And so that particular inventory makes you confront that issue.
I actually felt that on your website. It almost felt experiential-ish.
Yeah.
In, like, as far as the leadership thing, where it could be life-changing.
Yeah.
Is there some experiential in there?
Oh, completely.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I love me some experiential.
Yeah. If you don't leave feeling like you've been run over just about every single day, you haven't been doing the work.
I love it. That's my kind of show.
Right. That's right.
So,
and I'm sure with Dr. Marissa Prince there too, doing it. I've done a cultural diversity training with her at a previous employer, and it was phenomenal, amazing.
Excellent.
We led it together. It was so fun. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you, Regina Walter. And really quick before we head off, I know she gave us a lot of information for the viewers, a lot of dates, but also website. How do people get a hold of you? How do they donate?
The website is educatingchildrenofcolor.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on, what else is there?
Yeah, no.
The Bird, the
Twitter,
We're on
yeah.
Facebook,
X,
we're on
yeah.
Instagram. We're part of the Colorado Gives campaign and the Pikes Peak Gives campaign.
Nice.
And if you just Google Educating Children of Color, you'll get to our website, and lo and behold, there's a donate button on that too.
Yeah.
Click that thing, pretty easy from
Beautiful.
there. Let's think about that as we draw into the holidays, and some of us are, trying to make ends meet, and then for others, we're living in excess. And so just think about where we're at in this holiday season and what we can afford to do for somebody who truly needs it the most. It's been an honor, a privilege of mine to have you on the show. I know Nick as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Regina Walther. Thank you. One of my favorite humans in the world, and becoming my second favorite human in the world.
Yeah.
Until next time, my beautiful people, peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I love it.